How you doing, YouTube? It's time for us to take a look back at 2022, the Brainsmasher way. Let's check it out. So, if you know anything about my channel, you know that I'm not very good at year-end lists, so here we go. Got a lot of reasons for it. So, the crux of the year-end thing, for me anyways, is that, sure, I enjoy a ton of albums throughout the year. I get into a lot of great stuff. I've certainly got more than 20 albums that I could put on a list for you guys. But the thing about it is, every year, everybody puts out their year-end lists, and then I dig around and check them out, and I find like 50 more albums to listen to, and that I wind up loving a whole lot. And so in the last like 10 days of every year, I find a ton of things that I don't get around to listening to, I don't have time to listen to, and I have a hard time like putting together a list, because all the stuff that I'm checking out at the last month or so, honestly, since it's the 29th right now, are things that I wish I had more time to pay attention to, and that I wish I would have found out about further into the year. And I don't know how to solve that. I just don't know if there's any way around that, because like in the last couple of weeks, I have probably added something like 75 or so releases to my wish list that are things that I needed to check out from last year. So, and like, I certainly don't have any time to do that. There's a ton of stuff that on there that looks killer, stuff that I just missed. So I don't feel like I have a whole lot of authority to tell you what was the best stuff of 2022. So I'm telling you what my favorite things of 2022 were, and you can take that with a grain of salt, because there's a ton more stuff out there that came out that I never got around to listening to. I may not even discover until the next 2 years from now or so. There's my wish list right now is there's the new Bleg I still haven't checked out. There is a new Anatomical Amusements, the new Circle of Ouroboros I barely even got around to listening to. There's a new Esoctrillium. There's so much stuff. So I'm going to tell you my favorite things. I'm going to tell you some things that were great but not my favorite things. I want to talk about some things that I'm looking forward to this year. So this is my version of a year-end list, and it's not the kind of same thing that everybody else does, but I hope you like what we have. So, should we maybe just first start off with some honorable mentions, things that didn't make it into my top 10. And by the way, I'm going to let you down right now. My top 10 is not going to be ranked. It's just going to be my favorite 10 records. But these are some things that I loved, just didn't make it into my creme de la creme. By the way, if you should happen to hear it in the background, we're going to be blasting an old school record, Funeral Nations After the Battle. This is a 2-CD reissue of the original mix of this album, which came out in 1991. Awesome, satanic, thrashy, kind of death metal. Just love it. I hope you can hear it. This might be my most listened to album of 2022, and it's because I got it like maybe 2 months ago or so, and I listened to it for like 5 weeks straight. Nothing but this. Anyways, I'm not going to get lost into my honorable mentions. So, these are some killer releases, just not the best 10 that I happened to enjoy. We'll start this off with Bobophilic's Enveloping Absurdity out on Prosthetic Records. This was awesome, very kind of a modern take on your Demolic Nespith kind of deal. These guys kind of bring their own flair to the thing. There's a lot of kind of semi-melodic morbidity in the riffs going on. The drummer just brings a ton of like, just flourishes to the rhythms. It's great. I wish I had more time to talk about these releases because I have to keep this under like 45 minutes hopefully. Next, I'm sure this was on a ton of Urine lists, but like a lot of caveats where it's not an album, it's an EP. But whatever, we are all pretty excited anytime Worm puts out anything new. This is Blue Nothing. If for some reason you missed this, Worm is always this ever-evolving beast, and these are a couple of tracks that that had to be cut from the Foreverglade album, but it's weird because these albums, or these songs, were great. The songs that we're missing from Foreverglade are incredible. Just trance-inducing funeral doom of the highest order. But Worm is in this transitional period where they're going into kind of a black metal direction, a 90s black metal direction, which is pretty obvious based on the social media feed and the band photos, of course. So the last track on here that wasn't a trimmed off of Foreverglade is called Shadowside Kingdom, and it is very, very reminiscent of Anthems to the Welcome at Dusk by Emperor. It's exciting. There's this blast section in the middle of the song that it's mechanical, it's inhuman. Charlie Zelini's drumming is that kid is insane. I met him a couple years in Chicago, and I was like, you are gonna go places. Next, It's Time to Rise from the Grave on Death. Killer, energetic, just, I don't know. It's kind of old school, but not quite as old as a lot of schools going around in the death metal world, but it's super fun. Kind of outdoing Cannibal Corpse at their own thing, in my humble opinion. I would love to see those guys live because they're doing a ton of touring around right now. Next, death metal, Squirm, Beyond the Mortal Realm by Marvific Killer, follow-up to their debut. A lot of people are kind of whining about the production on it. Here, look, this is a fantastic death metal record. The only thing that it doesn't have going for it is that the debut was pretty much mind-blowing. It's hard to follow up an amazing record like that with something like this. It's just not as amazing as their debut. And the thing that debut had going for it so much is that they were so young. It was their first outing. It was super refreshing. It was their first thing to hit the pavement with. And this is just not that. That's it. I wish I had some time to spend with it. Next is another death metal debut follow-up, Engrossed in Decay from Mulder. Chicago death metal, definitely pulling up some Martin Van Drunen, kind of Asphyx sort of style. And you can't get wrong with that cover. One of my favorite live bands I've seen in the last couple of years. And we got Equinox Visual from Inexorum, Minnesota Riff Masters. This is kind of pulling in some more kind of Opethy style-wise guitar work. But if you don't know Inexorum, it's just really skilled, precision-based, melodic, blackened death metal, deafened black metal. It's very Swedish. It's very like Obsequii adjacent. Both of the members in this band are live members of Obsequii. So if you like that hyper melodic, super harmonious, kind of triumphant, dark metal, this is amazing. That's their third album, and they just get better every single album. Next, I did a full review on this thing because it blew me away, but Father Befouled's Crown of Inevikum. Super morbid, unholy, just blasting, gross death metal from Atlanta. Looking forward to hearing what they do next. Also, Conjureth finally put out a full length, and they got another one coming out this week. Majestic Dissolve. This one came out kind of early, and it was kind of fabled that there was a vinyl release that took forever to come out, so it was kind of riddled with a lot of confusion, but this thing just pummels you into liquefied bits of stupid meat chunks. It's one of the heaviest death metal things I've heard. And it's kind of like, it's unrelentingly heavy in a really different way. It's a lot of people are saying it's old school, but it's kind of not, as far as I'm concerned. It's kind of like the death metal that never got bad in the post-90s, early 2000s kind of things. It's something that kind of logically should be happening right now without references to a lot of tired death metal stuff. It's really forward-thinking and complex, and just what's so fascinating about it is how it just doesn't let up. It never lets up. Honestly, I would kind of like to hear on the next album. I'm hoping there's a little bit more breathing room, because honestly, it makes me feel like an old man, and it's just unbelievably suffocating. Also, absolutely love the new one from the Chasm. This one deserved to be on a lot of year-end lists, but it just wasn't my absolute favorite. But the Scars of a Lost Reflective Shadow, out on Vic Records. The Chasm are just a real unique death metal band, kind of thrashy influences, and this thing is just a perfect testament to how skilled they are at immersive songs with a lot of depth to them. Let's see, we also got the Abyssal Plane from my homies Dryad. Nasty, crusty black metal from right here in my town. It is really, really raw, and there's these interesting interludes between all the songs that are kind of reminiscent of like Troll, Drepta Krishna kind of era. But it's got like this blackened D beat kind of rhythm section, but the riffs are very like Celtic Frost, Hellhammer kind of stuff. But vocally, the shrill, shredding vocals on this thing are just absolutely unholy and terrifying. Let's see. Also, this Writhing Shadows album, I think it's self-titled, kind of like a greasy, oily sort of bolt thrower, if you will. Poser Death Imminent. Really excited to hear what these guys do next, but they're really bringing the unrelenting, machinated sort of death metal that is like kind of mid-paced, but just heavy as fuck. Let's see, we are getting near the top 10. So, Sadistic Drive with Perpetual Torture was really good. Another kind of Cannibal Corpse, but like early Cannibal Corpse worship. Head Split put this thing out. This is just a riff Bible right here. Fucking rules. Can't forget my favorites. I think a couple of years ago, their last album was my number one. Pensées Nocturne with Du Fanga. Look, I'm not going to be around the bush. This is absolute clown black metal. But it's vaudevillian. It's there's no way around it. It's circus-themed black metal. There's so much like chamber orchestra, I guess. But I don't. It's not classical. It's very, very bombastic and silly, circusy sort of squeeze box black metal. It is wild. It is absolutely bizarre and unique, and I love it. This thing, like, each time they put out a new record, I can't believe that they figure out a way to bring the bar even further. And so, again, I don't know how they can take the clown black metal thing any further, but I know they will, and they'll blow me away. It's just, it is honestly a little bit too much to take at this point. I love it, I love what it is, but it's not the kind of thing that I always want to listen to. It's really silly and fun and playful and kind of like poking the bear of traditional black metal, if you will. But I kind of like that. It's just not what I want to listen to all the time. Let's see. This would probably be number 11. Basava have a new album called An Old Forgotten Text. Still waiting to get a cassette copy of this. It sold out pretty quickly. But Basava are one of the strangest things going on in black metal right now. They're incorporating heaps of 70s psychedelic kind of psych rock, garage rock. What's the difference? But it is very, very weird. It's very trying, and it shouldn't make sense, but it totally does. They are onto something that you would never think works, but it is super fun to listen to. Just everything about this band is refreshingly weird, but in kind of a throwback way. But it is such an original idea that they're bringing to the table that I'm here for it. I'm super excited about what they're doing. And the last album that they did, I would never have guessed that they would do something like this. So, like, who knows what they're going to do next. And these kids are, like, super young. Apparently, they're, like, 19, 20, 21. So, who knows where these guys can do it. They're going to surprise me going forward, I'm sure. Let's see. Also, I'm waiting on a physical copy of Bad Manners, The Haunting. This is kind of a mysterious group of black metal projects that kind of have these shared members here and there. But The Haunting is a really weird. It's kind of like it's like a throwback to 90s Russian, Finnish kind of black metal styles. Musically, it's fairly traditional, although the drumming is like really super impressive and complicated. And the stamina on this drummer is like insane. But what they're doing with Bad Manners, The Haunting, is they're basically like, they've written kind of like a haunted house Halloween story that this album is based around. And I don't have it yet. I think it should be coming in the mail any day now. But there's like an illustrated booklet with the story throughout it. It's like really mystical and theatrical. There's synth on it, of course. But like what really sells it, I think, overall is that there's this kind of like warbly, trembly sort of like melted tape sound to the whole thing. It just makes it really eerie and sinister, and I just thought that was like a really interesting touch to just kind of drive the whole idea over the edge and make it absurd, which and a lot of times is like the kicker for me to make me like fall for an idea that's kind of hard to swallow, I guess. So check that out. It's on Avant Garde Records. Just really unique band. Let's see. A couple other things that I discovered based on people's year-end lists that I haven't had a chance to listen to a whole lot, but was impressed with. Solar Cross, To the Ever-Gleaming Pinnacle of Timeless Mastery. Super mysterious, I think, U.S. black metal project. Really reminds me of a lot of like U.S. underground, non-Scandinavian, like really dark monochromatic black metal from the mid to late 90s. It's nothing really reinventing any wheels, it's just really perfecting that old school kind of black metal sound in a very non-cheesy way. It's really dark and sinister. Haven't had a chance to listen to that a whole lot, but what I've heard so far blew me out of the way. There's a new one from Edegar, Tyrannomord. I just haven't had a chance to listen to it very much. I've got a copy of it, but I've just been swamped and listening to so many other things. I've been doing the Heavy Metallurgy Wednesday Album Club, which means basically I'm listening to one album about 10 to 15 times a week. And those are times that I would ordinarily be listening to a lot of other new things. So there's a lot of things that I just I've gotten in, I just haven't had a chance to spend a lot of time with and focus on toward the end of the year. Also, because of Joseph Sampson's year-end list, I'm going to put a link down below. This is my favorite year-end list every year. He has the most bizarre taste in metal, and he finds the most obscure, oddball, weird releases that I've never would have found out about if it weren't for him. So I'm so thankful that he does a year-end list on the Grimmer Than Thou blog every year. So check that out. He's got a list of like top 10, which are great picks, but then he's got a ton of like follow-up, runner-up kind of things. Tons and tons of weird stuff in there, but one of my favorite things from his list, which I'm still working my way through since he dropped that thing, like, actually no, he dropped it maybe at the beginning of December, but I didn't find it again until maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. But Wormwoods No Sun Nor Moon. This thing is wholly unique, bizarre, transcendental, really hypnotic. It's somewhat kind of borders on a little bit of death metal, I guess, but it just has this really mystical sort of progressive technicality to it. I don't know, it threads the needle between a lot of different styles in a really fascinating way. And there's a lot of like saxophone all over it. It's totally blown me away. So check that out. Another thing that I didn't know about until a lot of year-end lists was Noel's Metemporic. And this is kind of like a new take on some kind of angular sort of grind. I'm still processing it. I need to go back and listen to it some more, but super unique. I was really blown away by that the first time I listened to that. Another thing I actually did listen to quite a bit. I don't know if there's a physical release of this or not, but it's on Bandcamp. And I wound up listening to this quite a bit. The band is called Arid, A-R-I-D, From Anthropophagic Waste Breeds a Writhing Mutagenesis. Rolls off the tongue. This is the nastiest, grimmest, most minimalistic black metal I've heard in decades. If you took maybe Immortals Pure Holocaust and made it like way more simplistic and way more blasty, the riffs are also kind of like slower and more methodical, I guess, in a way. Definitely reminds me of Immortal, but like toned down to just a grim, water-sodden, kind of nasty, grim black metal. It's really, really fascinating. It's the kind of thing I reached for throughout the year, and I didn't know what I wanted to listen to, and I put this on maybe a dozen times and really, really liked it. And it's the kind of thing I think there's a lot of bands doing this kind of thing that's kind of gimmicky in a way. Raw black metal, nasty, minimalistic. Yeah, I can't hear the guitars, whatever. But this thing, just for some reason, it's all there. It's all tastefully done, and I just kind of fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Another thing I discovered on year-end lists was a band called Olfa. They are from Germany, and they've got a couple of their albums under their belt. This new one is called All That Has Never Been True. Really, really hypnotic, melancholic, just sorrowful, repetitive, hypnotic black metal. Reminds me of like Der Weg einer Freiheit. Really, really fascinating. I don't know, the repetitiousness of it just really drew me in, and it made the changes when those repetitive parts change, just the drama that those moments can bring you to are really, really impactful. That's one of those things I'm gonna order, listen to a shit ton. Eris Benda has a new album. I'm really always excited about. This is my favorite band out of that whole Black Twilight Circle group. But they have a new one, Spider's Lust and Dungeon's Dust. I believe it sold out like right away. Can't get a copy of it whatsoever. But it might be the best Eris Benda album that I've heard yet. Really, really unique. Just well-written, guitar-based, excellent black metal in their style that you all should know pretty well. It's one of those bands I'm like really proud to hear is from the United States. You know, like we are bringing some great black metal to the table. No shit. So before we get into the top 10, and we'll also talk about the 2023 releases. Before we get into the top 10, I am hereby committing myself to. I want to pay a lot less attention to new bands this year. I'm to the point where I don't want to get angry with myself or with the current state of the entire scene that's happening right now. Look, I want everybody who wants to play black metal or death metal or whatever to play whatever the fuck they want. I'm not whatsoever saying that you guys need to tone it down whatsoever. But there is so much stuff coming out every day that I cannot keep up with it. I mean, I can't, but I've got 4,000 albums in my collection that I miss listening to. And I have found myself every day I discover 3 new bands that are great. And it makes me question my sense of taste when I'm seriously sold on so many new artists that I find day after day. So I'm making a commitment in 2023 to spend far less time on new bands. So like I have a lot of people and friends who are sending me a ton of new stuff, even old stuff that's new to me, stuff that's like new discoveries. So I'm trying to make a concerted effort to stop listening to new bands, new things, and listen to things that are already in my room, things that I've already bought. Here was one of the things that kicked me in the ass to make me make this decision. I was going through my 2017 Amazon purchases. I was looking for something to rebuy for the kitchen. And I was scrolling through my purchases from 2017, and I saw albums in there, and I noticed that every single time I scrolled past one of them, I had this this instantaneous feeling of going, ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that too. But it took a second for me to remember, I have that. I already bought that. It's in my basement. I haven't listened to it in 5 years. And that's really sad. So I miss my collection. I'm going to go back into listening to it more and more. I want to have that be what my channel becomes a little bit more about than usual. So don't be surprised if this is my last year-end list, maybe ever. Who knows? But just like, I am so burned out on new bands, new artists. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it. I am so absolutely burned out on new everything. And I've got a million great albums in my collection that I don't get a chance to listen to because I'm constantly chasing the new thing. So that's where I'm at right now. And that's why I'm listening to Funeral Nation from 1991. So there's a ton of other great YouTubers out there like following a bunch of new stuff, covering new releases that you can check out. I want to be the guy that you come to for old school discoveries, reflections on things that are already in my collection. And I'm saying this now, who knows if I'll actually be able to follow through with this. Let's be honest, I have a hard time with temptation. But that's where I'm at right now. I am just absolutely sick of new stuff. I can't take it. It's all great. I feel like I have no sense of taste because everything seems great. How is that even possible? So let's get into my top 10. Again, no ranking whatsoever on this stuff, but we are going to keep it on the real. So one of my favorites was Stingara Regal. So this is a side project of Melocarpatan with Nasevere Sorda. I'm definitely pronouncing that correctly, if you will. This is mystical, folky, kind of summoning-esque black metal, reminiscent of your Master's Hammer, kind of Bathory-ish stuff here and there. But definitely a lot of summoning, a lot of Master's Hammer, kind of some Eastern-ish European kind of styles. This thing is awesome. Probably what I listened to the most this year. Oh, let's see. So this was a recent discovery, so I may be a little bit charmed by this album because of how recently I checked it out. But when I did discover this album, I listened to it nonstop. It blew me away. We covered this on the Heavy Metallurgy channel and talked about it for about an hour and a half, and we all just fell head over heels for this thing. The band is called Feytooth, and the album is called Remnants of the Vessel. This is their debut. This is a Southern California doom, stoner, sludge, kind of jangly 90s sort of thing. They're threading a whole bunch of kind of disparate genres together so well. The songwriting is impeccable, convincing, emotional, and just poetic. The lyrics are fascinating. Can't believe how good that was. Also, we've got the new one from Blue House Nord. Of course, every time he puts one out, it's got to be on the year-end list. Disharmonium is absolutely amazing. Look at that cover art, too. So, really hypnotic, immersive, and I think he is kind of doing a clever thing by kind of making this sound a little bit more buried and murky and kind of blurry sounding, which for me is a quality that kind of really pulls me into its repetitive, hypnotic sort of style. Love that thing a lot. Let's see, we've also got Enchantments, Cold Soul Embrace. What a triumph. So this is a 90s doom death band from the UK, and they haven't done an album since 93's Dance the Marble Naked, and they're back. A lot of this material was written back in 94, 95 or so. So this album sounds like an album taken right out of that time period. It's definitely an improvement upon their debut. I mean, not a ton, but this is just excellent. I just fell for this hook, line, and sinker. It is emotionally engaging. Yeah, love that stuff. Another riff Bible from the US. We've got Nachachwan's Kanawa Black. These guys are so impressive and creative. This one, probably my favorite of theirs, even though this is the least metal band photos I've seen all year. Just incredible riffs, just wonderful songwriting. Storytelling on this thing is immersive and engaging, but let's be honest, the riffs on this thing are impeccable. Also, Doldrums, the knocking, really refreshing, just convincingly weird, occultish metal from the U.S. Another thing I'm like proud to call from my homeland of the United States. Really unique. I look forward to hearing what these guys do in the future. I'm saying that a lot, but there's a lot of promising new bands coming out this year. I did an interview with these guys, and it's probably my best interview I've done so far. But this stuff is kind of based on some old occult storytelling, kind of making up their own thing though. Also, you should all know, I was impressed, blown away. My mind was melted by the new Imperial Triumphant Spirit of Ecstasy. Ooh, wow. Like, I haven't been this impressed with something that is so out of the ordinary in a really, really long time. This was intensely visionary and artistic. It's kind of a melding of technical, jazzy, black metal kind of thing, but it's done so and written and recorded and arranged in a way that is much more textural and layered than your part. The sounds and the textures just kind of weave in and out of one another in such a interesting way that every single moment of the album is fascinating. I've never heard anything like this, and it blew me away like nothing else this year. Yeah. Also, I don't know who's going to release this thing. I don't know if I'll be able to get a copy of it, because I think maybe Godo is doing this on LP, but I discovered this in November, so again, it's really after my heart because I've been listening to it recently, but Nansa Runai, Ruins of the Midlight Temple. This is the best black metal I've heard in the last 10 years, maybe. And it's nothing new. It's so perfect. It takes me right back to 94. It sounds a lot like European stuff. It's like Judas Iscariot, German bands. It's so perfect. Tremolo riffing going over skank beats and blast beats, alternating back and forth with just nasty, shrill vocals. The thing about it for me is there's a lot of this kind of like traditional monochromatic black metal going on right now. Then a lot of it's great, but here the riffs are absolutely perfect. It sounds like he's all over the fretboard, like just jumping all over the place, and I love that kind of stuff. There's no subtlety to the guitars. There's harmonies that are great, but the riffs are super direct. Everything is real decisive and just impactful. But the thing about the production is really, really raw and nasty, but nothing sounds unappealing, and everything there is represented in the mix. You can hear the bass drum, you can hear the snare, cymbals, it's all there. And that for me just makes it so much more immersive for me. It's not like a subtle Transylvanian Hunger kind of thing. It's more of a Under a Funeral Moon kind of thing, but a little bit more advanced, a little bit more US sounding. But Nansuronai is actually from Indonesia. So that just blew me away. I can't wait to get my hands on this thing. I have been listening to this thing at least every other day for the last, let's see, this would be about 5 or 6 weeks now. I can't get enough of it, and I need a copy of it. Please. All right, 2 more. Negative Plane's new one, The Pact, blew me away. This is old school, traditional, heavy metal, black metal. You've got more Master's Hammer kind of stuff going on here. These guys are the kings of this kind of thing. Great riffs, echoey, hallowed, nasty kind of thrashy black metal. We also covered this on Heavy Metallurgy's album stream. And last but not least, this is not my number 1, but this is the most pummeling thing I've heard all year, but the new Rip to Shreds with Jubion. I don't know, they kind of started out, I guess, somewhere kind of like a Entombed Left Hand Path worship kind of thing. So there's a lot of that here, but I have not really been able to, I guess, backwards engineer or understand what other influences are going into this band. It sounds wholly original, beyond kind of starting with your left-hand path sort of style. But this is just a steamroller through a crowd of people. It's so great. It's like, if you are angry and you need to hear something else that sounds pummeling and brutal, Jubion just delivers in spades. So that was my top 10. There's some releases I'm looking forward to checking out in 2023. One of these has already dropped, so I'll mention it now. And Oceans have a new one. I can't believe those guys are back together again and putting out new stuff. And their last album was really, really awesome. Germ is doing a new one. I kind of didn't really like the last one, but they did a EP called Lost many years ago that just blew me away, and I listened to that a lot. So I'm kind of curious. It's been a while since they did anything new. We've got a new Dothemsgard coming out very soon. That should be interesting. Aldrin sadly is gone, so we'll see how that goes. By the way, speaking of Dothemsgard, I'm going to be doing a deep dive on the Dothemsgard discography and kind of nether sphere that is around Dothemsgard with Matt from the Dark Path. We're going to be shooting that here in a couple days, so you may be able to see that. I don't know. Depends on when I get done editing this thing, but look out for that, okay? Kvist is back together again. Yes. I would have said stay in the grave, Kvist. There's no way you can ever top Forkunsten Marvific Killer, but we'll see where this goes. I think there's like a Peaceville sampler out now that has a rehearsal track from their new material or something like that. I'm kind of in the dark about that, but I'm skeptical but excited. Kvist is incredible. We've got a new Immortal coming out any day now. That should be pretty great. Their last one was really awesome. Kind of hoping they do something maybe a little bit more different. I mean, they're doing the Immortal thing. It's fun, but I mean, come on. It's time to kind of breathe some new life into this project now that Abath is doing his own crap. Got a new Cruciamentum on the way. That should be fun. Looking forward to the new Sanguis Sugarbog, of course. That is a band that has really grown on me a lot in the last half of this year. I kind of wasn't done listening to the last album quite yet, but they have a new one any day now, so we'll see. Gorguts are going to do something new. I believe they're rehearsing and writing. It might not be out this year. We'll see. There should be a new Panopticon, I believe, maybe this year, maybe next year, but pretty soon. I'm always here for a new Panopticon, so that's what I've got. If you are curious at all, I've got a ton of things on my Bandcamp wish list from last year that I need to get around to listening to. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check the stuff out for me. So I've gathered all this stuff up that I wish I had the time to listen to, but haven't gotten around to. So there you go. There's a ton of stuff for you to listen to right there. So I hope you find something that you like. Let me know from this list what you love the most down below. And if you want to see more content like this from me, you can join my Patreon by paying $6.66 a month with access to a ton of exclusive videos on there. You're going to love it. So that's it for me. 2022 in the grave. We'll see you next time. Later. Woohoo! That was a great video, and it was made possible mostly by me, but also thanks to the undying and kind support of my Patreon subscribers. Thank you all. I love you. If you are interested in being a part of my Patreon channel and supporting what I do, you are welcome to join at the URL below. It is only $6.66 per month, and you're going to love it. Thank you.